This is the agenda for our session this afternoon on using Votebuilder to manage your precinct meeting and county convention data. Real quick, Votebuilder refresher and some basic principles that are always relevant when working with Votebuilder. Then we're going to get real deep here, using Form View to do the data entry after your party organizing meetings, generating reports of that information so you can QC it, double check it, make sure everything looks good, identify gaps, updating my campaign during this season, and some additional resources. If you attended any of my Votebuilder trainings last year, these are some principles that I always like to share. Votebuilder is a very powerful tool. Not super intuitive always. There are multiple ways to do certain tasks. So here are some tips as you're working with Votebuilder. Patience, practice, and experimentation. Votebuilder takes more than an hour to learn, so it does take a little bit of patience, but I find that the more I use it, particularly the more I do specific tasks, the easier and faster it gets. There is more than one way to do things. There are multiple ways you can navigate through Votebuilder. I'll show you what I think is the fastest way. And it's important to experiment and try some things. It's darn near impossible to break Votebuilder. So don't be worried that if you try a technique, you're going to mess everything up. You're probably fine. I have a question here about sharing the material. So yes, I will email the slides and the recording tomorrow. As a reminder, within Votebuilder, we have two main parts of Votebuilder: my voters, which is the actual voter roll, and my campaigns, where you can organize your volunteer base. I am probably going to use this jargon. Those of us who are in Votebuilder day in and day out, we sometimes refer to my V for my voters and my C for my campaign. I'll try not to do that, but just in case I do. So we are in party organizing season. Precinct meetings are going on now. And of course, the county convention period is starting here very soon. The information I'm going to share about using Votebuilder to enter this data, it's pretty much the same processes for either of these kinds of meetings. And there are a few requirements and a few recommendations that we're making. This is what the requirements are. I've had sessions on hosting precinct meetings and on organizing your county convention. So if you attended either of those, you saw these slides before. But after those meetings, the attendance and the results of your elections need to be entered into Votebuilder within 5 days of that meeting. So those are requirements. You will, in My Voters, tag the attendees and tag people who have been elected as officers or as delegates to other organizations. The recommendation is that while you're in Votebuilder and you're completing this required task, it's also a good opportunity to update my campaign. So I will walk through the slides of our recommendations for how you do these two tasks. I'm going to pause and look at the chat really quick, and I do see that Harmon has joined us. Harmon, are you there? Do you want to come off mute and say hi real quick?
Hey everybody, my name is Harmon. I am the data director for the North Carolina Democratic Party. If you do have any problems with this, I'll be adding my email and also my office hour times in to schedule a meeting with me in case after you do your meetings, you need any assistance with uploading this data.
Thank you. Yeah, and I see the conversation in the chat with Jim and Bishop asking about who determines Votebuilder access. So the state party, we give access to the counties, and then the counties can determine who at the precinct level they share that access with. If you've got questions or you're figuring out maybe how in your county you want to structure who has access, Harmon is the person to talk to. Time to get in the weeds. So we're going to use form view for the data entry. So for your precinct meetings, you have this document I've got screenshotted here, which is the precinct meeting certification form. There's a red box around the bottom where post precinct you can indicate who has been elected to the three positions. That is one source of information that you will be entering into Votebuilder. You might have used paper forms or a spreadsheet to take attendance at the meeting. For county conventions in particular, you might be using Mobilize to collect people's information about who is signed up. If you're using Mobilize, then that should be linked directly to your Votebuilder about who signed up, but you might need to indicate who actually attended. So Bishop dropped the link for the precinct meeting certification form if any of you need that. And there is also an opportunity to elect county convention delegates in absentia. There's a form for that if you need that. These are the activist codes that you will use in Votebuilder. So when you get these slides tomorrow, like this might be a page to print, so you have this handy. I know I like to have pieces of paper next to me, and I know it's a little small on this screen. I have to zoom in myself. So in My Voters, there are two categories of activist codes you will work in. On the left-hand side here, we have party officials. So this is for precinct chair, precinct secretary, precinct vice chair. It is also for county chair, county first vice, second vice, third vice. We have an activist code for county other vice chair. Some counties, particularly the big ones. Wake has regional area coordinators. I think Orange County maybe has some special chair titles per their party charter. So that's there. You can also indicate who has been elected to be an SEC member for the 2-year term, who has been elected for congressional convention delegates and county convention delegates. So those are the key activist codes for party officials. There is also a section of activist codes for events. And this is where you will tag who has attended precinct organizing meetings and county conventions. I'm going to walk through how to apply those tags. In My Voters, which is where I've got the green arrow here, on the left-hand side, when I'm looking at mine, and probably when you're looking at yours, unless you've adapted it, there is data entry section and a field, an area called form view. So the red arrow is pointing to form view. When you click on that, it brings up this screen where you will select quick lookup and hit the next button. You'll now select the form view that you want to use for your data entry. So there are two options here: precinct meeting reporting form and county convention reporting form. You're going to be doing this data entry at different times. The precinct meeting reporting form is probably what you will be using soonest. Indicate where I have the orange arrow, the date of that meeting, the precinct meeting or the county convention meeting. Canvas type is a drop-down menu where you will select meeting and then hit the next button. That will then bring you to what looks like the normal search screen, but you are searching within the form view, which gives you a handy shortcut here. So search for the name of an attendee who was at your meeting. I also recommend, because some names, more than one person has the name, put in your county to narrow it down. And you're in My Voter, so just remember that you should be looking for people under the name that they have used to register to vote. Marcia.
Sorry, I've got Vote Builder open. I'm in my volunteers. I'm in at the home um, menu here. I've got an administrative menu. I did not have the same. If you back up like 3 slides or so, um, I could not go directly to form. I didn't have a data entry
Are you
menu.
in my voters?
I am my voters.
Okay.
I'm in my voters.
Um, okay. Hang tight for a minute. I think we'll have time at the end and I can do a live screen share. And then I
Okay.
think you can probably follow along with,
Okay. That's fine.
okay. And
Thank
I
you.
can hang out a little bit later if I need to help you with that. Um, I also see someone can't see my slides right now. They sent me a private message. I will say that there was I had a Zoom software update recently, and sometimes things change. Look at the very top. There might be a place where you can see participants and another tab where you would look at slides. So try that, but also I will be sharing these slides so you'll have them. Okay. So here we are. We're going to search for a voter. So search for someone by the name under which they have registered to vote. I go by Christy. My legal name's Christina, as an example. So if you look for someone and you don't find them, maybe you need to add more information, narrow it down, or maybe think about nicknames and adjust the information there. So put in the top where I have this red box, put whatever information you know about somebody, including your county to narrow it down. Click the blue button that says search. And then at the bottom of the screen, it will bring up names that it's found based on the criteria you put in. So click on that name when you find the right one. This is the view that you will have. Take this opportunity to update the email and phone number for the person based on what they provided when they signed in. And this is where you can apply your activist codes. So in the bottom left-hand corner, I've drawn a red box around the activist codes, in this case, that are relevant for precinct meetings because I'm in the precinct meeting form view. So the options here are to select the 3 officers: precinct chair, secretary, vice chair, in alphabetical order. And you can also, at the top here, at the top of the list, select if somebody has been elected as a county convention delegate, and check the second box for the people who attended. When you are doing this for county conventions, so you would have selected the county convention form view, follow the same process to find people. Now in that bottom left-hand corner, the list is the activist codes relevant for county conventions. Congressional district delegate, county convention delegate, county other vice chair, county first vice chair, second, third, county chair, and county secretary are your options there. So you will select the activist codes that are relevant for the person's record you're working in, and then hit save. So I've drawn a red box here around the save button. And then you will repeat that process for each person who attended the precinct meeting. And then, in a month or whatever, each person that attends the county convention. If you are part of a clustered precinct. So first of all, you probably know it by now. So if you are not clustering, then this is not relevant. If you are clustering, because you have an approved alternative plan of organization, you will use the same activist codes as precincts and complete the precinct cluster reporting form and turn that into your county chair. So that's how you do the data entry for clustering. Okay, that was our form view data entry. I see that Marcia found the forms. Good, good, good. I am going to talk about now generating reports from the data that you had entered. And we will have time for Q&A at the end and some screen sharing if we need it. Liz will help you. Okay. What we have here are examples of questions that, like as a county chair or something, um, that you might ask and how to find that information. Before I go to this, I want to, Flavia, I see your comment in the chat last year. You had clusters, but Votebuilder didn't count them as organized. Um, so I think that the process this year should work for that. One thing I'll mention is if you are using the precinct organizing dashboard tool, which I trained on in the session for planning your precinct meeting, I think clustered precincts show up a little differently there. Um, if you are still having this problem this year, then reach out to us, to Harmon, to your regional organizing director, and we'll make sure that your precinct is being counted. Okay, how many Democrats attended each of precinct meeting? This is something a county chair might be wondering, asking about. To pull that report in My Voters, create a list, select your county, and then select the activist code in the events section for 25 precinct org meeting. Run the search, and then you can see I've highlighted here the counts button. Once you've run that search, you can then run quick counts in crosstabs. For crosstab 1, put in party as the data field. In column 1, put precinct as the data field and refresh the results. So that will then show you how many people attended each precinct meeting in the county. Maybe you want to see which precincts have elected officers and which do not. This might be one of the kind of reports you might pull where clusters show up a little wonky. Flavia, I think you can have up to 5 precincts. However, they still have to be bordering each other. So it's not that common to actually have 5 precincts clustering. I think having 3 at a time is more common. Okay, which precincts have elected their officers? In this in this case, in My Voters, again, we're creating a list. Select your county, and then click on the blue box that I've highlighted here that says activist codes. That will bring up the full list of activist codes. If I'm seeing which precincts have elected officers, I will select 25 to 27 precinct chair. It now says just secretary and vice chair. Select those 3, click save and run the search. Now we're going to select counts, and here are the crosstabs and columns to use. So crosstab activist code, party official, put 1 for precinct chair, 1 for vice chair, 1 for secretary. In the column, you will indicate precinct and then refresh those results. So that will give you a table where there is a row for every precinct that has at least 1 officer. There are yes, no columns. And if there is a 1 or higher in the yes column, then somebody has been elected to that position for that precinct. So this is a way you can, particularly for county officers, for county chairs, to see which precincts have their officers elected. Okay, I'm going to pause here. And Nye, Harmon, Bishop, have I missed anything in the chat we should talk about, or Nye, anything you want to course correct me on?
Nothing to course correct. I'm checking the chat, and I think Bishop has answered each of the questions that have been brought up so far, so we're good.
Okay. Any questions before I move on? Uh, I don't know the answer to that question. Okay, Nye, the question in the chat is about clustering. How would we cluster as five with three officers?
Yes, so the officers would have overlap in each of the precincts. So like maybe one in your cluster of, well, let me try to do it. Could you unmute yourself and ask your question just so I make sure that the hypothetical I use is correct?
Yeah, hi. I'm just confused because our alternate plan says that we can have three and that there has to be an officer from each precinct. So I've never heard that we could cluster five. That's new information for me. So I just am confused.
Yes, if you drop your email in the chat, I can send you the updated language from the party plan of organization. We did make an amendment to the plan at the winter SEC meeting. So it still applies that we would like leadership from the majority of precincts. So if you're going to cluster multiple precincts, it'd be preferred that you have leadership in terms of precinct officers from the surrounding precincts as well. And I've got both of y'all's emails, so I'll send that over to you in just a bit.
Thank you, Nye.
I still have a question
Mm-hmm.
about still like again about clustering. You said they have to be adjacent, but if there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, does that count, or do they all have to border each other?
They all need to border each other.
All of them. You can't have one here and the fifth one here, and
Yes.
the other in the middle. They
Yes,
all
they
have
all need to border each other.
Okay. Okay.
I see a suggestion in the chat from Susan about searching for all Democrats in a precinct and then use form entry to confirm people are Democrats when you enter them. I think that's a good suggestion. I think it might depend in part on how big the precinct itself is. Like if that's that's 200 people, it's probably pretty manageable. If it's 2,000, it might be a little bit cumbersome, but sounds good. Can one precinct have more than one VP? You mean vice chair? It's one vice chair, unless you have an alternative plan of organization. Okay. Okay, let's talk about taking this opportunity to update my campaigns. So I've done a lot of training, and if you haven't had a chance to attend it, I'll probably be repeating the Vote Builder training series in probably June, once we get past precinct organizing and county conventions. But my campaign, the part of Vote Builder that keeps information about your volunteer base, is a really powerful tool. And this will help get information into my campaign so you have an updated list of your volunteer base. So what we're recommending here is that you check to make sure all of your precinct meeting attendees are also listed in my campaign as a volunteer. And if they aren't, get them in my campaign. So the search you would run to check this is in My Voter, create a list, select your county, and put the activist code from the events section, 25 precinct organizing meeting. Then you would add a step to narrow people, narrow by my campaign record equals no my campaign record, and run that search. So that will pull a list of everybody who you've said in My Voter attended who is not also in my campaign. So what you would do next Everybody on that list needs added to my campaign. So you can click on each voter's name. It'll pull up their record. And then on the right-hand side, there's a box that says voter file van ID. Click the blue text that says add to my campaign. It's hard to see on this screen, but when you get the slides, you can see that step. I have to zoom in to see it myself. So in the red box is where you would do that. Add to my campaign, and that would put the person in your My Campaign. Okay. That is the process for the required steps of what to do with your data after precinct and county meetings, along with recommendations for how to beef up your My Campaign. I'm going to share a couple more resources and then I'll pause. We can do more Q&A and screen sharing if that's helpful. I mentioned that there is a series of trainings on a lot of different vote builder skills. I would say that the content we're talking about today is most relevant for the managing volunteer data session. These are all clickable titles. So when you get these slides tomorrow, each of those colored banners that list the title of the training, if you click on that, it will take you to the slides from that training session. There is not yet another round of these trainings scheduled, but as I mentioned, I think it'll probably come in about June. There is also a folder on the Living Library with Vote Builder resources, and Bishop, if you can drop that in there. Thank you. So the Living Library is a shared drive that was set up, predates me, and has resources, training resources that have been built up over the years by the party. There is a specific vote builder section of the Living Library, another place you can go to find all of the slide decks. You can find the user agreement. So if you're looking to add people as users to Vote Builder, they should agree to that document. And there is also this Vote Builder guide. This is a PDF. I don't know how many pages it is, 40 or 50. Like this isn't a read from start to finish resource, but it can be a really good resource for searching for certain key terms if you're hung up on something. So that resource is available to you as well.